I'm recording one video for every day in July. This is the 8th video, and the theme, the question, is how do you evaluate intellectual proxies for politics? In other words, most people don't have time to follow the day-to-day operations of the government, let alone stories, headlines, and legislation that take months to play out. So someone's going to have to pay attention to them over the long term to see what's actually going on. Well, there are people who claim to do this, but how do you know if they're telling you the truth? How do you know if they themselves understand what they're looking at rather than just bloviating? There are a lot of very easy, simple checks. You can literally ask them something like, what does the word statute mean? Or you could ask them, if you know them personally, you can just slide a blank piece of paper across the table and say, draw me a diagram of the city, the state, the federal government. I've done these things almost always in a sort of friendly context, but you can really just see if people know the basics. Most people do not. My default assumption is the person I'm dealing with does not understand. And so really the question is, are they the atypical few who do? And one very good heuristic to check is, do they know how to look up legislation? Do they know how to look up bills? So a bill is a set of instructions for changing the law that goes through a legislature. And of course, this text lives somewhere on the internet, and you can go to that website and look it up. So if the person that you're wondering about does not know where all of that stuff lives, well, then they've probably never ever looked it up, which means they're probably not used to legislative analysis, which means, you can follow the breadcrumbs. They're probably not as serious as you would like. You should pick someone who can do that kind of work. And if you're trying to evaluate a news source, the version of this heuristic is, do they link to the actual bill that they're talking about? Most news sources do not, for one reason or another. Sometimes it's because they don't trust, or they just don't think their audience would be interested enough to click the link, follow it, and poke around the legislation themselves. I think this is incredibly misguided. I think they should link directly to the legislation so people can check. A good example of a publication that does link is called City and State, and it covers New York City, New York State. Highly recommend them. So can someone look up legislation? Do they know what those websites are called? For New York City, you go to just if you Google Legistar New York City, you'll land on the city council's Legistar page. And Legistar is a legislative management tool that many cities use to track not just the bills and the legislation that go through them, but vote counts, a whole bunch of other things. Like San Francisco also uses Legistar. And if you wanted to know the federal version of this, you could just go to congress.gov. They even have a top 10 bills that people have searched and looked at. And I think congress.gov is extremely underrated. There's a lot of great, cool tools on there. You can sign up to track something. It can give you automatic updates. You can also ask it to read a bill aloud, and it'll sort of scroll as it reads. Whole bunch of cool things. Go to congress.gov, just poke around. So in conclusion, does the person you're talking to, or the person that you're wondering about as an intellectual proxy, know how to look up legislation? Is there evidence of that? And if it's a news source, do they link to actual legislation? If the answer is no, that's not to say that they couldn't still be good. It's just to say they probably are not good.